Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to our garden in Spokane, Washington, where the hardiness zone ranges from 5B to 6A. How would you like to get way more produce out of your vegetable garden? It's very doable if you use a method called succession planting, and that is today's video topic. So let's get started. Succession planting involves anticipating when a crop will be finished growing and having a new crop ready to go in as soon as that first crop is finished. It does require a bit of planning, but this is something you can easily implement in this year's growing season or start working with it next year. In order to be successful at succession planting, there's two things you really need to be aware of. One is when your last frost typically occurs in the spring, and I realize it varies, and when your first fall frosts usually happen, because that will give you a good sense of your growing season and the number of days that you have. Now, maybe you have a garden journal and you've been keeping track of these things. That is super helpful. Or maybe you've been using a calendar and jotting down some milestones in your garden. But however you do it, you really need to know what kind of time frame you're working with. This is my third year of using a 5-year garden journal, and I just love how you can compare what's happening in your garden year after year because it helps you spot trends. So here's an example, April 25th. And so you can see there's an entry for 2024, 2025, and 2026. And what I do each day is I put down what the high temperature was and the low temperature and a quick description of what types of conditions we're experiencing and then what's happening. Maybe I've shot a new video or I've started something from seed. I've encountered something in the garden I wasn't expecting. Anything that will be helpful information for me to refer back to. And so every day of the year is represented. And so you can see I've got 3 years worth so far. I love this journal. As a matter of fact, I've been enjoying this journal so much that I put it into my Amazon store, and I'll put a link to it in the description that goes with this video on my YouTube channel, just in case you're interested. As an Amazon affiliate, I do earn a commission from sales, but that won't impact the price you pay at all. So earlier today, I was looking through the journal to see when we typically get our last frost in the spring. In 2024, it was on May 30th. In 2025, it was May 19th, and also May 30th in 2026. Our first fall frosts have been on September 20th and October 5th. So this means our frost-free growing season is anywhere from 113 to 138 days. Now I want to give you some examples of how succession planting works. Do you see this bed of corn? It is really coming along nicely. The variety is Sweetness Bicolor. It's from Ed Hume Seeds. It's our favorite corn variety, and it takes about 68 days to reach maturity. Now there was nothing in this bed until we planted corn May 30th. And in retrospect, of course, I could have planted something in there, but I had so many things in lots of different beds, I didn't feel like I needed to plant something else. But this is probably going to be ripe about the middle of August. And so I've already anticipated that, and I've just started some lettuce, cabbage, and spinach indoors from seed. And I chose those crops because we'll be starting to approach the cooler weather, and so those will tolerate the weather much better than a warm season crop. So this is my second example. Every year we grow garlic. We plant it in the fall and we harvest it the following summer. And if we didn't think ahead to when we were going to harvest the garlic, this bed would sit empty for the remainder of the season. Well, that is a lot of weeks where you could produce something to eat. So what we did is we harvested the garlic on July 1st, and a few weeks before that, we had already started the corn indoors from seed And so as soon as the garlic came out, we planted this corn. It was totally ready to go, and as you can see, it's hitting the ground running, which is awesome. So that is a really good example of succession planting because we did not want this bed to sit idle. The more produce we can get, the better. So here's another bed, and yep, it involves corn. Corn is such a great succession crop. So if you saw my June vegetable garden tour video, you know that this bed had peas growing in it, and they were easily 6 feet tall. And again, we had started corn indoors from seed to go into both the garlic bed and this bed. So as soon as the peas went out, this corn went in, and it's also growing great. So now you can see all 3 beds of corn. And something that I want to emphasize is that it's always a good idea to start your seedlings indoors a little bit earlier than you think you might need them. That way they are going to be ready to go as soon as the previous crop comes out of your garden. Now there's another important thing to think about before you plant your succession crops. You need to think about the nutrition that's left in the soil after that first crop comes out of the bed. So let me give you some examples of that. Okay, so I'm back at what used to be the garlic bed. And we know that garlic can be a pretty heavy feeder. So once we harvested those bulbs, we added quite a bit of compost to this soil because corn really needs a lot of nitrogen in order to grow well. And so the compost would help supply that for the plant. Now I'm back at what used to be the pea bed. And the interesting thing about peas is that they fix nitrogen in little nodules on their roots. And I wanted to take advantage of that because, again, the corn really needs nitrogen in order to grow well. So rather than just pulling out all of the pea plants, which would of course include their roots, I snipped off the plants at the soil surface, leaving those nitrogen-packed roots in the soil. So then when I wanted to plant my corn seedlings, all I did was just make a cylindrical hole, slipped in the corn seedling, and that way they got their nitrogen. So that works really well. If you have some type of a legume, whether it's peas or beans, and you're going to do succession cropping, be sure to put in a plant that will really benefit from that nitrogen. Now, if I were to plant a succession crop that's going to bloom and set fruit, so for example, cucumbers or summer squash, before I planted them, what I need to do is add in bone meal to the soil. Bone meal is high in phosphorus, and that's what plants that bloom and set fruits need in order to produce for you. Now, if your succession crop is going to be something that produces leaves for you to eat, so think of things like lettuce, spinach, or kale, they require nitrogen in order to grow well and produce for you. So what I would recommend doing is once the previous crop comes out and before your new seedlings go in, is to add either some compost or composted chicken manure to the soil, and that will give the plants nitrogen. Before you decide on which type of crop to grow as a succession crop, remember there are cool season and warm season crops, which tolerate different types of weather. In my example of the garlic bed, which is what you're looking at, our weather is pretty hot by the time the garlic comes out. While I might enjoy planting a fresh bed of lettuce, there's no way it would tolerate the heat. So in this case, you'd want to plant a heat-loving crop. But if you're going to be planting later in the season when it gets cooler, you want to plant a cool season crop. So how do you choose a crop? Think about the types of crops you enjoy growing, and then look at the number of days those crops take to reach maturity. Do a little calculating to see what will give you a harvest in the number of days a garden bed will be available. Now obviously everybody has different lengths of growing seasons, so let's look at some potential crops And I want to emphasize the importance of checking the days to maturity information on the seed packets first before you choose something. I'll include this information in the description of this video on my YouTube channel as well. You can grow beets because they take about 60 days to reach maturity. I found a cabbage variety called Tiara that reaches maturity in about 57 days. It's a smaller one that's more cold tolerant. How about carrots? Parisian Market takes just 50 to 60 days to reach maturity. Kale is a great cool season crop, and this variety just needs 50 days to reach maturity. Here are two of my favorite lettuce varieties. Buttercrunch needs 65 days, and Mesclun lettuce needs 45. Radishes just need 30 days to reach maturity. Spinach is another great cool season crop to try. This one is giant winter spinach, and I love it. The leaves are huge, and it just needs 50 days to reach maturity. Swiss chard is a great variety to try, and it only needs 55 days to reach maturity. There are a lot of different varieties, but I love the rainbow chards because you get gorgeous leaves and stalks. Now let's look at some potential warm season crops. Bush beans typically take from 55 to 60 days. Now this is the variety of corn that we're growing, Sweetness Bicolor, and it takes 68 days to reach maturity. I also found an early maturing variety called Early Sunglow, and that takes 66 days. Early maturing cucumbers are another option. So Patio Snacker takes about 55 days, and this year I'm growing MiniMe, which takes the same amount of time. You can even grow some summer squash. This variety is called Gray, and it just takes 45 to 50 days. You would not believe how quickly they start producing squash. I'm growing a new pattypan squash this year called Green Lightning, and it only needs 45 days to reach maturity. You can even grow tomatoes. Patio Choice Yellow on the left is a wonderful cherry tomato, and it matures in just 45 days. I've also grown Orange Hat, which is a dwarf tomato, and it takes 55 to 65 days to reach maturity. But I also found two others for you. Cannellino cherry needs 55 days, and Matt's wild cherry also needs 55 days. Okay, so that's how succession planting works. And yes, it does take a bit of planning, but before you know it, it'll become second nature. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening!